our friend from Pig Trail Nation. Mike, have you do you make it back, or are you still stuck in Dustland?
No, we left out of there at 6 a.m. as fast as we could get out.
Very good, very good. Well, I left last night because I don't think I was going to be able to fall asleep, and I just made it home easily. That was a tension-filled regional final, but I guess all of them are, really. I mean, I remember all the other championship games I've seen in regionals are very tense, very tight, and usually pretty close. Mm-hmm. Did last night stand out apart from any of the other regional finals that you've seen?
It did, in that it was almost unpredictable, although I do recall saying in one of our pregame reports that I felt like Arkansas's one chance to win that would be if it was not one of those idiotic double-digit run games. If we had a more traditional, normal baseball game, I felt like the Hogs had a chance. You know, I got a lot of friends in the Lubbock area where I grew up, and they were telling me, look, Oklahoma State doesn't do this every time out. They don't hit this way all the time. And I think that's what happened to them. You know, they ran out of runs, or at least the way they've been doing it. And then, of course, if you had said to me before the game that Hagen Smith would be the closer, I would have been, what planet do you live on? So it was very unusual.
Well, apparently, I heard you talk in the post-game press conference with Dave Van Horn about exactly that, you know, somebody had told you that they thought that Hagen Smith had a closer mentality, closer stuff. Dave agreed. And so that kind of opens up the conversation about moving forward into the Super Regional. I mean, I know we want to relive what just happened in Stillwater, but, you know, you've had Zach Morris step up in a starting role. Will McIntyre's given them starters innings. And Smith just kind of looked, it took a couple of batters, but he settled in and looked really comfortable in that role. And I really liked him in that role yesterday.
Yeah, there was a fan back there there were a lot of Razorback. They sold standing room only seats or tickets, and I think Arkansas might try that. But there were a lot of Razorback fans back behind where I was, and when Hagen came out, I was like, what is this? And there were like eyeballs opening up, and he just told several of us, he said, guys, you don't understand. He's really better suited to be a closer. Now, I think what he must have done is he must have been one of those fans that went over to fall ball, because that's what Dave ended up saying. He said, we used him in that role in fall ball. He was very good. I think what happened when Paulette went out, they needed to have another weekend guy, and they just went with him, and it stuck for most of the year, but then they rested him, and then they bring him in. And I agree with you. We may see an adjustment here because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely will. And when sticking with pitching, I mean, how do you see this weekend's pitching, you know, kind of playing out? I mean, I think obviously most of us would go with Carter Nolan being the guy on Saturday. I mean, do you continue to mix things up, I guess, kind of put some different guys in different spots? And, you know, heck, if Hagen Smith can be a closer, why can't Tiger be start? I mean, you might as well try it. At this point, it seemed to work. I
mean, you could see Will McIntyre out there in a starting role, or you might see, I don't know. There's just a number of guys in there that they might adjust, and I still don't know, you know, what you do for a number 3 guy, if you stick with who you have or whatever. But they've got some decisions to make. But the bottom line is, by winning that regional, they shut a lot of people up. There was a lot of, upset fans. I had one tell me, and he said, if you plotted this on a graph, you go back to 2018, one out away from winning a national championship, and then the next year you're 2 and out, but you're still in Omaha, and then you have that year where you don't go anywhere because it's COVID, and then last year you don't make it out of a super regional. And he said, if they don't make it out of a regional, you just plot it downhill on a graph. Mm-hmm. The program's going in the wrong direction. Well, it just went back up a little bit. So hopefully they can keep it going.
Hopefully they can. And one player, that's been real talk of the town, whether it's been positive or negative for the last couple of weeks, has been Michael Turner. What was the biggest difference that you saw? I mean, kind of outside of statistically speaking, biggest difference you saw in his game this weekend compared to what we saw the weekend before in Hoover?
I just think he had an all. I mean, there was a reason why he was the MVP. He throws out a runner trying to steal second in the first game, and he's hitting, and he's getting key hits, and he continues to do that. He had a great pickoff that killed one of their innings. I think it was the fourth. He just did a lot of things to help you win a game, and there were complaints. I mean, people told me, well, even the announcer was saying he sits on one leg when he catches and he can't move and block balls in the dirt, and there was all this analysis stuff, and that all just went away. You know, nobody's analyzing the MVP of a regional. So I told people, I mean, I guess they think I'm joking, but Derek Ruskin might need to be his press agent. Just keep dreaming up bad things to say about him, and he just keeps doing this stuff.
Well, he made a couple of really great plays in the field yesterday, and I think that's really where Arkansas stood out last night. And I think that's where they've stood out mostly all season. Like, I've asked Dave Van Horn recently in Hoover, I want to put you on the spot. What does your team do best? We've seen them play 55 games by then. What do you think they do best? And it was fielding. It was fielding. That is the most consistent part of a team when they're good. And that was shaky a little at the end of the regular season and in Hoover. But what I saw yesterday, like, you gave up 3 runs to a really good offensive club, but I feel like the Gloves, count them, 5 or 6 plays, they might have saved 5 or 6 runs just with great plays in the field.
Well, when you watch that regional and you watch other teams, you're just reminded of what they have in Robert Moore and Jalen in battles. I mean, just throws to first base, even from over Caden Wallace over from third. You just don't. With other teams, you see those throws to first and the first baseman stretching out, and then somebody, gets to first because it's a little too far to reach over to his right. Different kind of problems, a bounce throw or whatever. And these guys just don't do that very often. It's almost automatic.
I think Arkansas fans really enjoyed the strikeout of Riggio in the 8th inning. It was really the last gasp for Oklahoma State. Like, if you were to pick one player that Arkansas fans probably dislike more than anyone else, and he's a good player. He's a really good player with a great future, but I kind of enjoyed watching him slam his glove down in the dugout after the game ended.
Yeah, he sort of reminds you of what's going on at Tennessee right now, and I've said all along, I mean, I'm not trying to rag on Vitello or Tennessee, but they're too good to be doing these things. And the same thing with him. He's just too good a player to you want people to look at baseball and look at a guy like that and admire his talent, but when he does that, those kinds of things, you're like, come on, man, grow up. And I mean, he's young. I'm sure he will. But you're just once again reminded that you don't see those type of things out of a Dave Van Horn team.
No, you really don't. They're pretty opposite from everything. I mean, Oklahoma State, they're in your face, loud, while Dave Van Horn and the Razorbacks are quiet. They just go about their business and ultimately get results. Now, Mike, I think I saw this correctly earlier today. Dave Van Horn's never played against North Carolina. Has Arkansas ever played against North Carolina in baseball?
I was trying to remember, and I'm probably not the best person to ask, but I almost think that I remember a game like that, and it would be in the Van Horn era, but maybe not. I don't know.
I got it for you here, Mike. It was the 1989 College World Series. They've played one game.
Okay.
We talked about it in postgame. Bubba was on that team that beat them. This was in the 89 College World Series at Rosenblatt Stadium, and that was the one game Arkansas won in Omaha that year. They beat them 7-3. So Dave wasn't a coach on that team. I think he'd already headed out. He wasn't coaching. So yeah, he's never coached or played against North Carolina, and Arkansas has only played one game against them in baseball.
Well, it's going to be a different experience. He said they have another one of those places that has a fairly new ballpark, a nice ballpark. I mean, that always makes a regional better when you got. I'm a guy that remembers that crazy thing up in Waterbury, Connecticut, in which the dugouts. I swear, guys, the dugouts were railroad cars that had been put wheels on them, and they drug them into this football stadium that had been converted to a baseball field. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen, and that was a baseball regional.
That's wild. That's wild. Do you feel like playing on the road might help? I mean, did it help this last week? Did we make too much of that? Because I think more than anything, what helped was getting 2 days off the weekend before to reset their minds. But it was. Did you feel like playing on the road had anything to do with the way they played this weekend?
No, I don't think that was. I agree with you. I think they just refreshed themselves. I think when he got here in his press conference on that workout day, Thursday, he talked about teams that didn't make a regional field and good programs. And he said, you have to appreciate the fact that you're just in it. And he said, when you come here, you shut the door on everything that's happened before. But he also, when they got back from Hoover, which was on a Friday night, he said, Saturday and Sunday, do something that's not related to baseball that you want to do. And I know that Connor went out and played golf, and he talked about it really helped. So I think those 2 days off, getting your mind off baseball, and then, just doing the reset, I think that's what helped.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that, too. Mike, we'll let you go. I appreciate you hopping on with us today. Thanks, and hope I see you in Chapel Hill.
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.